Welcome to the Decent Crypto Podcast. Today is Sunday, August 7th. We are live with another Decent Crypto recap coming to you from Paris and New York City today. I'm here with Matthew Blumberg. Matt, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful Sunday here. Nice 25 degrees and sunny. Could not be better.
25 degrees. Good. What are you Celsius reading Parisian now?
Celsius 25 maxi.
Degrees.
Look, there actually is a case to be made for Fahrenheit, right? It has higher precision. So when you're setting a thermostat, it's like, I know what, like, it's not that I don't know that I like it at 22 Celsius. It's just like easier. Like I can input 74.5 or whatever in Fahrenheit. And yeah, like I'm a fucking psychopath. I like it warm, but, there's more precision. Next question.
This is why people come to the Decent Crypto Podcast for the Fahrenheit versus Celsius maxis. Hot takes. Yes, exactly.
No one in crypto wants to hear the word Celsius ever again.
There are some people who might, the people who are using a Slope wallet. They're like, yeah, these are my brothers in arms, the people who lost all their money.
They got done dirty.
R.I.P. Yeah, they got done dirty. Not great. We got something out of it. Everybody can blame Solana again, just left Solana. Even though there was not much Solana involvement. But you want to break it down here? What exactly happened? What are we referring to? People losing money again.
So another hacks on hacks this week. This was a big one because the way that it developed, it was difficult to know sort of what was even going on initially, right? Like a lot of these hacks is like, oh shit, this DAO is like treasury's gone, right? It's like, all right, like we know what happened, right? It happened in this transaction. Here it was much slower and like much more decentralized. So we had about 8,000 wallets in total that started just getting assets siphoned out, right? So these are like Solana and then also SPLs, which is like the Solana ERC20, so like USDC and stuff. And
yeah, the very first sign of this was like this. Yeah, some guy tweeted out like, "Hey, there's a massive like exploit. There's a bunch of wallets that are just being drained of all their SOL and all their SPL tokens. Be on the lookout." He posted, I don't know what he posted, a couple transaction hashes, and then people started looking into it. Right, like that's kind of what started the whole thing.
Yeah. And more and more people started getting affected, and it was very unclear what the root source of it was, which makes it like very difficult to perform, security stuff, right? Like the only clear thing was that like people who had their seed phrase generated by a hardware wallet and had their assets on a hardware wallet, they weren't getting impacted. But like, how it is in crypto, like, it's very convenient to just have one address, right? And so you got a lot of people that have like, a wallet somewhere, and then they have like the mobile wallet, and like, initially the sort of takeaway was that a lot of people thought it was something called a supply chain attack. So when you write software, like you don't write every part of it, right? Like you import libraries and stuff. And there was suspicion initially that like maybe one of the libraries was sending private keys to an attacker. And it sort of seemed
like some kind of dependency.
Yeah. Like some kind of dependency that they were importing something
on.
And like that library like was malicious. In reality, it was even worse. So, in reality, what happened was Slope Wallet was sending logs, and these logs contained the private keys or seed phrases in an unencrypted format. So every time you open the wallet, it's sending like analytics, to Slope so that they can see like, oh, this user opened their wallet and like did something with it. Solana like pretty like mobile forward. And so like that way complicated like the level of analytics you had to do to like figure this out. But I mean, you can see like there was a good tweet where some guy like posts like, look at the fucking log here. And it's like innocuous enough, but it's like, user ID this, right? Like wallet that, like action, send SOL, like private key. this is an unencrypted private key. And this just blows my mind.
How did that like private key actually show up on the transaction itself, right? Like
it wasn't getting logged on chain. It was getting logged in like the Web2 like analytics that the wallet app was sending back to home base. So Slope HQ is getting all these activity logs, and the activity logs contained unencrypted private keys, which is like first, like,
okay. And so
you shouldn't be sending private keys at all for any reason, right? Like that was like my wallet had this figured out back in the day. They were like, we don't store shit, okay? Like we can't help you if you lose your shit, but like we're not going to store shit. Like, come on. And so
okay, so wait, how did this guy find the logs exactly? Like, how did he find their website logs? Like, he was just looking at the site and like inspecting the source code, or what exactly happened there?
So he must have, like, the hacker must have either gained access to Slope Wallet's like database, or else Slope Wallet was sharing their logs with like a partner, or like hosting their logs on like AWS or something, and like they gained access that way.
Or I mean, even the guy who posted the screenshots on Twitter, like, not even the hacker.
So it's effectively inspect source, right? Like you can, set up a proxy so your laptop logs every HTTP request that like your phone sends. And
so it was just that simple. Like anybody could have just done this by looking at their website, huh?
Anybody could have figured out what was going on, by watching the network activity as they did shit on the app. I mean, really
interesting.
Really,
so
really
then
bad
what was? Yeah. So what was kind of the outcome of this? Let's talk about some of the spillover effects here. So 8,000 wallets ish affected, right?
For about
most
$8
of them
million
Solana
total.
wallets.
$8
million drained.
But there were a few ETH wallets where, like, if you reused a private key or a seed phrase across like two platforms, so if you use Slope Wallet, say, to generate a private key, and then you imported that into like MetaMask or something, or like if you have a 12-word seed phrase, like that's a 12-word seed phrase, regardless of which front end you're using. So it turns out that actually like a small subset of people were using the same seed phrase to generate wallets on Solana, on Ethereum, on wherever. So those people also got their Ethereum assets drained, which is not great.
This is a concern I've had for all time. And it's like a completely irrelevant, pointless concern, but it's like, let's say I generate a random seed phrase with 12 random words. And I know this is why you should use 24, right? But it's like, I use 12 random words and they just happen to be 12 random words that somebody else has already generated a wallet with, or vice versa, right? Like somebody generates a new, a private key with a seed phrase, 12 words that I already have. I have a ton of assets in there, and they just now have access to everything in that wallet. I know it's a pretty irrelevant thing, but now seeing something like this, it's like, well, if people are using the same seed phrases across chains, first of all, not great security practice. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
But it's just scary to see. So what happened to all of these people's funds exactly? Are they just gone forever?
They were sent to, I think the hacker had 4 or 5 addresses, and like the funds just went there. And like, I don't think Solana has like a Tornado Cash equivalent. I don't think it has like a mixer. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with these funds. Like, do they just stay locked? Do they get sent to some, non-KYC exchange that like might be cool with like handling these funds? It's anyone's guess. But I think they're just sitting there now.
Nobody can read the Solana block explorer anyways, so it's not like that matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Slope was logging too much, but the Solana transaction logs are pretty crap. So, maybe there's something to be said for these devs, right? No one can read the Solana log before, like, it's so bad.
So how are like different kinds of groups handling this? What is kind of, the response been from the Solana community, the Slope wallet team, any other folks that were, like kind of involved in this ecosystem really at all? Like there's been quite a bit of chatter around this. Like this has been one of the more notable, I would say, exploits of the year, of the last, 12 months.
I mean, Slope handled it extremely poorly.
Takeaways,
right? So Slope themselves came out and said, "Hey guys, we have like a rough read on what we think might have happened. Click here to read it." And then they posted a Google Doc, which is like, don't click random Google Docs, right? Like that's just like a baseline security practice. Like, come on. And then I didn't click the Google Doc because it's a basic security practice, but I guess like their handling of it was pretty poor, and they like didn't really do a good job of expressing what happened. And so people were kind of upset with that. The Phantom team, I guess, was just up all night trying to like check and double check that like they weren't the source of the exploit, which eventually they were not. The Ledger team used this as like a chance to go on a big marketing campaign, which is like pretty fair. Like don't
That's
do this,
just their move,
get a Ledger, right?
Yeah.
Like, which obviously would have saved you, right?
I saw a sponsored post on Twitter. It was like promoted by Ledger.
Oof.
We didn't get hacked. Great.
Yeah, I mean these ledgers are great. I just got my first one like a couple months back, and it's like they're just really high quality hardware.
Whoa! What's the shilling going on here?
They're great products.
You're in France now. You're shilling this French hardware company.
Leger.
Leger. It's from the Leger region of France. Okay.
So this is here's one response that I thought was really interesting to all of this, right? So
yeah,
someone out there was like trying to do a little sleuthing, right? And so they did something that I thought was extremely interesting. They sent the hacker's wallet an NFT. Okay. And the NFT, like, you know how NFTs, they have metadata, right? And like, there's a field for like, you know, where the image URL is, and that is usually hosted on IPFS, but it can be hosted on any server, right? They hosted an image on their server and logged all of the network activity that requested to view that JPEG. Okay. So they send an NFT and the image file is hosted on their server, and they can see which IP addresses are requesting it. And they can see, there's something called a user agent, in like HTTP request, like headers, and they can see when the user agent is Phantom. And that would only happen if you're opening your wallet and your wallet pulls a little preview of the NFT to like show, because, you know, Phantom has like NFT support, right? And they're like, this is the hacker's IP address, and it's not even a VPN.
Wow. Okay, so they found it. They actually did find it?
They got the IP address and I guess reported it to like authorities. And so we'll see what comes from that. But isn't that fascinating?
That's pretty amazing.
Man, I get airdropped all sorts of random fucking bullshit NFTs, right? And it's like, how many of them are just like Empire had a really good take on this. They were talking about this aspect of the hack, and they're like, NFTs are the cookies of Web3.
Absolutely. Yeah. They for sure are. I mean, like Lens Protocol, which we talked about last week, is basically building that exact thing. Just like different types of cookies that follow you around and like build like a social graph based off of that, right?
Yeah. Now imagine the like
can also be used
potential.
in this malicious way.
You can get someone's IP address,
that
and then
too.
based on the IP address, you can advertise to them, right? Like you see that they have like a Kith Friends NFT in their wallet, and for everybody with a Kith Friends, you airdrop them some bullshit garbage NFT that logs their IP address. And then IP addresses are commonly used for like advertising profiles already, right? Like I have a friend who like was getting her boyfriend a birthday present, and it was going to be a surprise, but then he started getting ads for the product because she looked at the website on his home Wi-Fi, and then he starts getting ads for it. He's like, I bet she ordered me one of these, and she did. It was like pretty fucking wild. So IP addresses are already being used to build like user profiles, and then, you know, you can tie it all together with like cookies, right? And so all of a sudden there's an advertiser that knows that like your browser is is being used by someone that has whatever NFT, they can start advertising. If you own Kith Friends, maybe they start advertising Supreme stuff to you, or I don't know, because you're into fashion. Cookies or NFTs are the cookies of Web3.
All right, NFTs are the cookies of Web3. We need to make that like a sticker or something. All right.
Pretty crazy.
Anything else you want to hit on? Yeah. That's a really cool like way to like. That's something I had never seen before in like a white hat situation, or even a black hat situation. But it's cool that they were able to pick up on that and like report it to the authorities or whatever. Is there any other
you don't
thing,
want
any
NFT
other point
support
you want to
in
hit?
your wallet for privacy reasons, right? It's super interesting.
So I was going to say there's a really good use case for like the wallet being like the browser, right? Of this Web3, right? If that's the case, if NFTs are cookies, right, then the wallet is really your browser and like your gateway to everything, right? So I think wallet tech needs to be really improved and made just also like cooler, and like that's why I'm like semi bullish on the Solana phone. But
a lot of people are bullish on the Solana phone.
Anything else you want to hit?
This. Because the Solana phone has this like built-in like secure enclave, right, where like your private keys are actually stored, and so the the reason Ledger would save you from this attack is that the private keys are never actually known by the browser extension wallet, right? The wallet never gets that. All it gets is like all it can do is request signing of a transaction and get the signed transaction, right?
Just read the signatures or like the signed transaction,
Yeah. And so like, I don't know. Look, my broad takeaway is don't fuck around with plain text private keys. Come on. This is absurd. This is like the most amateur hour shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I cannot believe there was an organization of people working in the crypto space that were doing any handling of users' private keys, let alone unencrypted plain text private keys, and transferring them over any kind of network. This is the most absurd fucking story I've ever heard.
It's very generally bad practice to be storing users' private keys, right? Like, is there any way that users could have known about this, or like would have known that their private keys are being stored by this company?
I mean, you'd have to inspect all your network requests the way that eventually it was figured out that like this happened, but like, you shouldn't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like wallets shouldn't be doing anything with users' private keys other than holding them encrypted locally, right? At the very most, if you don't have like a hardware wallet. So like, I don't know. I just think like when it comes to this sort of thing, I think that it really lends itself toward like a relatively centralized mode of operation. Like MetaMask is the default. Everyone uses it for a reason, right? And if MetaMask were doing this, they would have enough users that somebody would randomly be inspecting, especially now, they'd be randomly inspecting the network traffic that's getting sent to make sure that like this isn't happening there. Slope Wallet, meanwhile, like this hack only 8,000 wallets were drained, which is like, okay, like obviously that sucks for those 8,000 people, but like, that's not a lot of users, right? Like, what is the VC that funded Slope Wallet thinking? They're like, you told us 2 million monthly active users. How come they only got 8,000 private keys, right?
I did not even think about that. Yeah, I'm sure Slope. Well, yeah, Slope is wrecked no matter what. But yeah, Slope's metrics are probably gonna take a reality check.
So get off of Slope. Migrate your shit. Like, if you're worried that like if you've been using the same seed phrase in multiple places, like just get a new one. If it wasn't like
I would say there is actually. Yeah, I would say there is a really important takeaway for our listeners, for us too, just as a general kind of practice. Looking at this from a security perspective and looking at what Matt just said about NFTs are the cookies of Web3. you should operate going forward with that mindset that NFTs are the cookies of Web3, right? And just imagine what cookies are used for in Web2 or just in the internet broadly, right? And imagine now that applies to Web3 and to every application that you use, that you allow to have access to your wallet, that you give permission to access your wallet. And just think about all of the crazy hacks and exploits that have already happened in the crypto space and that have happened in the internet era beforehand, right? Now have all of that in your head and then think about, with your one access point to everything being your wallet, just have all of that in mind before you put real funds into it, right? Like, this should be something it's a hot wallet, right? Like people say, use the term hot wallet all the time. You shouldn't be having your life savings on there, right? You should just be having a little bit of play money, really just a little bit of money that you can use to actually like play around with the applications that you want to use, that you want to try. If you want to buy a couple of, random, NFTs, or, just, you want to be playing around, you want to try stuff, you want to experiment. That is how to look at these hot wallets that are interacting with, Web3 applications directly. The way the space is moving is much more of this kind of rebuilding the traditional internet type of model, right? And obviously there's different value adds, there's different kind of incentives, all of this, right? But that's the way that the space is moving towards. And this previous kind of ideology, or this, like, the way people treated their wallets beforehand was just like dump all your funds into there. And like now is just, you just do not want to be doing that. So yeah, that's my 90-second rant on wallet security and best practices. Hope you enjoyed.
Can we take one little tiny aside? Because every time there's a hack, people talk about disconnect MetaMask from whatever site.
Yes, let's do the aside.
I want to hear your hot take. Does that do anything?
Well, not after the fact.
Yeah, but like, say you're not hacked yet, and there's an exploit on some bridge, or I don't know, like some protocol. Like, say some website was malicious, and you were about to click mint, but then someone's like, "Yo, this is a scam mint. Don't mint that." But you already connected. Are you at risk?
I mean, you're probably at risk still, yeah.
Like, you've clicked connect
I would say,
wallet.
like, you should definitely... I don't know. You probably are at some risk. Like, if you've already connected wallet once, you probably are at some risk. But, I mean, you still want to revoke permissions.
Yeah, you haven't created any permissions, and this is the key difference that I'm driving at. A lot of people say you need to disconnect your wallet from every site in case one of them got compromised. Like, say Uniswap got compromised, right? We've all like approved Uniswap router to like receive to request tokens from us or whatever. So yeah, you should revoke your approvals, right? But connecting wallet doesn't do anything. All it does is, I mean, you should read when you click connect, like what it's asking permission to do, but it can't sign things for you, right? All it can do is suggest transactions for you to sign. So as long as you're careful when you sign stuff, which is always the time to be careful, right? And like pause and think and read like no matter what transaction it is, right? You should always be reading what you're signing before you sign it as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Right. Double checking the address that you're interacting with, etc. Right. Like MetaMask has a contact book, not because it has like an address book, not because like it's to hold like your friend's wallet so you can send them shit. It's actually for security, really is the feature here. So when you're clicking like sign something and you're interacting with the Uniswap router, for example, like you can see, yeah, this is the same Uniswap router that I've always interacted with. And then when it's not the Uniswap router, if like they get compromised, like then you don't click sign. But connecting or disconnecting your wallet,
yeah,
closing your browser isn't going to change anything, right? Like if your private keys are leaked, you're fucked.
Yeah. So
right. And if you don't sign something malicious and your private keys are yours, then you're okay. It's the signature.
So the main thing you want to be concerned with is the permissions, right? Like revoking access, right, to certain applications, right? You still want to do that, but you don't need to disconnect your wallet to every application. You want to be careful when you're actually signing transactions.
Yeah, exactly. Connecting, disconnecting the wallet.
We are
does
now
not put you at
a
risk.
wallet security podcast. Okay.
Thanks for indulging the
Good call out.
Because every time there's a hack, people are like, "Oh, you gotta disconnect your wallet from this browser." It's like, bro, that doesn't change anything, right? If you're wrecked.
Yeah. No, I do think people get confused by the terminology of like, you know, approvals and just connecting wallet for sure.
Yeah.
You know, this is maybe like a deep dive, you know, wallet security.
Yeah.
Coming to you live.
Yeah. Wallet hygiene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wallet hygiene. All right, let's move on from wallet hygiene to America's favorite segment, the FOMO of the week. Matt, there's a lot of FOMO, man. This one hits home. This one hits hard, both for you and for me. Let's set the stage here. You know, one of the bigger announcements of the week. Your former employer and my current employer announcing a great, beautiful partnership. BlackRock and Coinbase. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. Larry Fink, he's still the CEO, right?
Oh yeah.
One of the most powerful humans on the planet. Just announced a deal with Coinbase to allow their institutional customers to have to access custody and trading services through Aladdin, which is a product that BlackRock offers for their institutional clients. And they're going to be using Coinbase Prime Broker to accomplish that. So pretty big partnership here. BlackRock has historically not offered these services to any of their clients. I don't think, like very select clients. I think there was like a private wealth group maybe that they offered it to initially, but not too broadly. So this is by far the biggest announcement they've made, biggest foray they've made into crypto.
I mean, you and I remember in 2017 when Larry Fink said Bitcoin was an index for money laundering.
Dude, Larry Fink has some really, really crazy quotes. Like, I mean, not as crazy as like Charlie Munger, but pretty good stuff out there. I think it's, you know, like, dude, like BlackRock, eventually it was like, look, man, their clients are going to be asking for this. I'm sure they've been asking for this for many years. And it was just the regulatory approvals thing. Whereas I'm sure BlackRock has, I can't even imagine how big BlackRock's army of like lobbyists and, I don't know, like homies who deal with regulators. This is like just so not my world. So I don't know what even goes on, but, it's cool to see. And especially like, you know, the Coinbase Prime Broker team, like, you know, I know a few of those guys, like really solid dudes. It's a big deal for Coinbase too. Like, so this is, let's get into the FOMO now. Coinbase stock, up what, like 75% on the day of the announcement.
Wow, what a shit coin.
Yeah, I know, straight shit coin, man. Pumped from like the 60, 70 range to like above $100. Still held up pretty well. It's like in the 90 range now. So yeah, not financial advice. I speak from my own head, not from my employer. Yada, yada, yada. But you know, interesting stuff. I obviously didn't buy any Coinbase stock. Like, who would have bought Coinbase stock? Like, who buys Coinbase stock?
It was more a little bit in vogue to sell Coinbase stock up until about a week ago. Kathy Wood, right? I mean, like selling the exact bottom.
Yeah.
Oof, that's so painful.
Yeah. I saw Kobe say this. He's like, yeah, Kathy Wood formed the bottom. Like, she was the bottom.
Yeah.
It's like she was literally the last seller.
Oof. I mean,
I don't know, man. Like,
it's probably worth remarking just a little bit on Coinbase, what Aladdin is, just to like put it into perspective. Like, why does this matter? Why does this exist? Right. So
Sure.
Aladdin is like basically the information management tool for a lot of like financial advisors, right? So if you like have a little bit of, if you're like, if you're a boomer and you have a little cash and you have a home, and you like, you know, maybe you already paid off your mortgage, so you're buying some, like you have a nest egg, you entrust that nest egg to some financial advisor, because he's, I don't know who your grandma used or whatever. And that financial advisor needs a way of keeping track of client portfolios. And that's what Aladdin is for. It's primarily just for like analytics, right? It handles a lot of things. Like it's an enormously multifaceted tool. It can handle trade execution, all sorts of stuff, but it really is just meant to like replace like the need for that financial advisor to manage 100 different spreadsheets. They just input whatever trades they make into Aladdin. And so that's why this is such a big deal, because when your financial advisor, when you ask them, hey, I'd like to put a couple % of my portfolio into Bitcoin, they really didn't want to do that for you before, because then it was like a huge amount of overhead work for them, right? Handling report generation, right? Like when they're tracking like how much assets you have, when they're handling, you know, regulatory stuff, like how much taxes you owe, right? All of this stuff is like taken care of for them by Aladdin. And like,
I mean,
that's
custody
why they,
is the big one too.
Yeah, custody huge, right? Yeah. And
no financial
so,
advisor is going to want to manage custody for crypto assets on behalf of their
hopefully they don't
clients.
use Slow Wallet.
We literally just talked about this. Yeah. Okay.
So it's a big deal, right?
Okay,
because it opens the door to
Blackrock.
make it really easy to add crypto to a client allocation portfolio, right? Like you're like, all right, like I've been meaning to get a little Bitcoin on the book, but like I don't know what this grayscale thing is, right? And it was like my only access before. So, you know, buy the dip and like allocate a little bit, and it's easy. It takes a few clicks. I just call up my guy at Coinbase or whatever.
Or at Blackrock now, right? Oh, you're saying like, well, because I think like the idea is to not even have, like, it's going to be like a white label thing. It's not even going to be like a Coinbase thing. I think it's literally just like you're only interfacing with Aladdin.
I thought it was more like, I think clients need to be both clients of Aladdin and Coinbase Pro or Coinbase Prime, in order to take advantage of this. Yeah. Like I don't like BlackRock isn't a trading desk, right? Like they're not a broker. So like when you're buying, you know, 100 shares of the S&P 500 ETF, you might be executing that by clicking a button in Aladdin, but it's actually getting executed like through some broker. Like, you know, like BAML is executing it for you. And then they handle like the custody and like securities lending and all of that.
So, but in that case, right, like the client wouldn't have to be registered through BAML, would they?
They may be. Yeah, they have to be a BAML client, right? It's not like they see it on behalf of, like, it's not like they see BlackRock placing this trade on behalf of the client. They are like also directly like in contact with the financial advisor. So the FA needs a relationship with the broker as well, which like Coinbase is effectively acting as here, the broker. Yeah.
Right. Huh. That's interesting because the Coinbase Prime product is generally like not geared toward like financial advisors as their target client, right?
Yeah, it's geared toward like hedge funds, right?
Like hedge funds, or like just big institutions. But yeah, I mean, look, man, Coinbase has been looking for a win for a long time, so good to see anything happen there.
Get some points on the board, Coinbase.
Yeah, points on the board, dude. NFT putting up big points on the board, and now this. So yeah, bullish. FOMO of the week, man. Coinbase up like 75% just yesterday or Friday. All right, what is your FOMO of the week, Matt?
Ooh, my FOMO of the week. Another hot one from last year. Flow blockchain. Yeah.
All right. What happened this week?
So Flow blockchain, you may know them as the creators and like hosts of Dapper Labs, like Top Shot.
Yeah,
Shot, right?
Yeah, like vice versa. Dapper Labs created Flow, and Top Shot is hosted on the Flow blockchain. Yeah.
Instagram announced this week that they were going to support Flow-based NFTs.
Lord Zuck, baby.
And look, Flow didn't really have a lot of catalysts, right? And I guess this was big enough news for them that the token was up 44% on the day.
Nice. Strong.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, right?
Almost as much of a shitcoin as Coinbase.
No love for Flow. I mean, I know a lot of people that have traded a lot of stuff. I don't know anyone that's ever bought or sold any Flow.
Only people that do Top Shot. That's basically it.
Huh.
Yeah. Or people that got in like super early. I actually know a few people from my old job that like made a ton of money off Flow.
Really?
But yeah, I don't know people who are actively like trading this.
I guess that's Flow is one of the. I'm sure there was no liquidity in the market, right? Like that's probably why it was up 44%, right?
Yeah. You know, with stuff like this, I think it's been around for Flow itself has been around for so long, like 5 years almost, that the supply is probably, like mostly been distributed out, and the people who are holding are just long-term believers at this point, right?
Or they're locked.
You could say that or like you could also make the argument that it is kind of a utility token in the sense that like you have to have this thing to buy Top Shots or buy whatever else.
It'll be interesting to see. Personally, I'm curious to see if Top Shot sees any kind of revival from the Instagram support of the Flow blockchain. Right, because Top Shot basically fell off the face of the earth. At least like I haven't heard anything about it in forever, ever.
No.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. Has Instagram made any announcements about like what the actual plans are?
I don't think
too
so.
Much, right? Just like they're gonna enable.
They've sort of broadly said like what you would expect Instagram to say. Like we're going to enable artists to like mint NFTs and like for users to like show off NFTs. I'd assume it like looks somewhat similar to like the Twitter model where like you can log in with your MetaMask mobile or whatever and like sign a message that, that they can use to verify that like you own this wallet. And then like you can display your NFTs, I guess, on your story or your feed or whatever.
I feel like they have a pretty good opportunity here. I don't know if Flow is. I don't know. I feel like the chain they use is kind of irrelevant, to be honest. But I feel like they have a decent opportunity.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, right? Because there's so much cool art out there, and Instagram actually is a great platform for artists and creators.
For creators, it's like unmatched, right? I guess TikTok is eating their lunch, from what I hear. I'm not on either platform.
I'm sure.
But...
I am. We're not on TikTok yet.
Not yet. If any of our listeners are below the age of 22, definitely let us know what's going on in the world.
This is a whole demographic.
TikTok.
U24s.
Yeah. It's true. The 18 to 24 demographic. Spotify tells us that there are some. So if you're out there, please hit us up. We want to know what's going on with the youths. Okay, let's go to another hack.
Another hack.
That was the FOMO of the week. All right, Matt.
Switch rooms while you
this is your FOMO, dude. Okay, yeah, sure. Honestly, I think you look fine, dude.
You think so?
No. Yeah,
I feel like you look like Matt from the shadows.
Look, dude. Look. This is light and dark. This is duality.
I just need like a hoodie. Shadowy super good.
Yeah, no. No, it's good. It's good. We'll go grainy today.
Grainy.
Yeah. So this hack. From Nomad. Can you explain to us what happened here?
First question. Have you used the Nomad Bridge?
Absolutely not.
So Nomad was the primary bridge for EVMOS, right? Which was like the Cosmos based, like EVM compatible blockchain. And the whole thing was kind of teed up as like, it was going to have a lot of airdrops on it, which is like a narrative that in the bear market, like it will gain you, like people will talk about it, right? But it doesn't mean that like, it's not bullish.
I mean, they blundered the airdrop itself so badly. Like
they blundered the actual launch of the chain to to the point where they had to pause it and then like redo it again like a few days later.
Restart,
not auspicious. So Nomad was like the primary bridge there, and they also handled like a bunch of other chains, they had an issue where they pushed a new piece of code to their smart contract. And this is like something that I find really interesting because I guess it was audited, but then like you don't necessarily get every new change to the contract audited, right? And so this was like an unaudited like change to the contract, like upgrade, right? And
why was there like any kind of
I'm
rationale
sure it was some
behind
kind of gas
that decision?
efficiency or something. I'm not actually sure why they changed it, but like people are re-architecting stuff all the time, right? Like so Seaport, like
no, I guess I mean like why would they
1.1, but if it's going to go to 1.2 at some point, right? Yeah.
But like, why did they not get it audited? Did they not audit every single like upgrade?
The lead time, the lead time on audits at one point was like 18 months, I think.
I know, but that's come down quite a bit.
It has, yeah. I was talking to someone who works in the space the other day. He's like, yeah, we can get you in on like an EVM compatible audit for like Solidity in like 2 months, depending on the size of the project. Solana, like 3 months. It seemed like he really knew what he was doing. So maybe he's faster than most, but you know, you're just trying to deploy like a change or two here and like, you know how it goes, like, you know, really, I mean, are you really going to put on your helmet to ride your city bike 3 blocks? Like, I mean, probably not.
Definitely not, man.
So, it just so happens that at the end of these 3 blocks, this was the road to hell. So what they did was they pushed an update that accidentally made it so that it returned true for everything, basically. So there's a function in the contract that checks the validity of a user's attempt to withdraw assets from the bridge, right? And usually, like there would be like a permissioned set of withdrawals that are allowed to occur. So the way this would work is on the EVMOS side, you would send it to ETH, and it would then add a transaction to its like allowable list of transactions. It would say this address can now withdraw to ETH, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's basically just going to allow anything that it's asked to do.
Yeah, and this is related to like a quirk of Solidity where if you look for something in Solidity that's not there, like if you ask it for like, say we have like a dictionary, like Python style, right? Or like a mapping of like key to value. So like how much ETH does Karan have on this bridge? Karan 1, Matt 1.5. If you look for a key that's not there, it will just return 0. And they were using 0 as like a true value or like a success value, which like you really should never do. Like you have to be really careful because Solidity doesn't error when you look for a key that's not there. It just returns 0. And so they like introduced this bug that basically made it so that anyone trying to withdraw anything could do it successfully. And
Jesus.
There was some kind of thing where like you needed it to look like a transaction that had happened before or something. So like withdrawing like 10 wrapped Bitcoin or something was one that like a lot of people did. And so basically what people started doing was, I don't know why, but the hacker must have like fumbled on their execution here because they sent one transaction to like test it, right? And then that set off like red flags like, yo, wait, Nomad is like under collateralized on the Ethereum side relative to the assets that are issued on the EVMOS side. And then everyone's like, oh shit, Nomad's getting hacked. And they're like, wait a second, it's not like drained yet though. And it's like, oh man, anyone can submit any transaction actually. And all you have to do is change the attacker's address to your address and you'll get whatever quantity of assets. So if you see some transaction where the attacker withdrew 10 Bitcoin or 10 wrap Bitcoin or 10 ETH or like 100,000 USDC, you can play that, but with your address, and you just sign that transaction and your address is not receiving the funds. Because like anything.
So is that what people did?
That's what people did. And a lot of people did it. It was easily.
So it wasn't one hacker stealing the 190 million. It was a ton of people.
And then it like went into like a free for all. Yeah, it was a ton of people. And a lot of them were, like there was one guy, you know, watermelon.eth, and this dude's like, yo, I know this address is doxed. This was a white hat. Like, I was like, come on, guys. Like, it's in my fucking Twitter handle, which has my real name in it. Like, I'm not like, you know, like, what do you think? I'm that dumb that I'm trying to like steal shit? Like, no, I'm going to send it back to the Nomad team once they like get the shit patched up. Right. And so,
yeah, actually, so they've like recovered a few percent of the funds, but
yeah, some like 5% of the funds. So 9 million of the 190 million have been returned.
Yeah.
Not great. Better than most hacks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
working on it.
It was just a fucking free for all over the span of hours. It wasn't like, I mean, I was like, why is gas so high? Right? Like, is there a fucking mint going? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was trying to like swap some ETH or USDC, like one way or the other. And I was like, what the actual? I'll just fucking send it to Coinbase, I guess. Like, like Uniswap's going to charge me $30. That's like, you know, it's like, I've paid more, but I've paid a lot less recently.
That's a super fascinating hack because normally you don't see a bunch of, you know, retail getting in, you know. It's like
it was a real free for all.
It's pretty funny.
Absolutely wild. Yeah.
Wow.
So what
picturing
I find
a jailbreak situation.
Yeah, real jailbreak. It was somebody posted a tweet where it's a video of someone with like a big box full of bread, and it's like on the sidewalk in New York, and the pigeons start going at it or something. And it's like, yeah, like live feed of the Nomad Bridge hack, and it's just like everybody's getting a slice. I saw one interesting thing, which was like, yo, be careful because in the US you can get taxed on stolen goods. Did you know this? In the US, stolen goods are taxable income if you steal shit.
Dude, that's amazing.
A lot of taxes on it, which is like, yeah.
I mean, they were saying that about sports betting for the longest time, where it's like, oh, even though sports gambling is illegal, if you make any money on it, you got to report.
That's amazing.
Right? Well, good thing I only lose.
So what I find really interesting about this is it highlights that bridges are like, come the fuck on. Like, I don't know why this was the one where everybody was like, oh yeah, bridges are dangerous, huh?
Yeah, like what happened like with Aave, right? Like Aave is an example of a company responding in a completely dramatic fashion here.
Aave is super interesting, right? So there's a proposal on the Aave governance forum now to shut down the Aave like protocol's operations on the Phantom blockchain, because Phantom itself is reliant, like fully reliant on AnySwap's bridge as a way of getting assets to or from the chain.
Yeah.
And so they're like, look, like we're not earning that much in fees and we're exposing ourselves to a lot of risk here. Like maybe we shouldn't be deployed on Phantom. It's like maybe we were a little too overzealous with like the multi-chain future back in the day, right?
So is it mostly like with Phantom and AnySwap specifically, is it just because it's only one trusted bridge that lets you get in and out that's causing them this concern?
Look, that definitely magnifies it, right? But like, I'm sure Synapse handles some volume on Phantom, right?
So that's my thing. It's like, why did they pick out Phantom here?
I think AnySwap is by far the biggest, though. I think it really is like a key bridge risk, right? Like, I mean, Harmony, right? Like Harmony Bridge gets hacked.
Yeah.
Like, anything deployed there is like, you know, struggling to reconcile their assets and liabilities now, right? You know, one thing that I like that came out of this is that people are starting to question layer 2 bridges.
Interesting. Okay.
like the native Optimism bridge.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
People think it's secure, right? But here's the thing. Here's my doomsday scenario for Optimism.
I can tell you don't think it's secure.
People, some would say.
Some are asking. Yeah.
Here's my 3-step fucking doomsday for Optimism. This is like not that hard, right? So, step 1, hack into the Optimism because it's a centralized protocol, right? It's a
not
company,
financial advice,
right? Yeah, don't do this. Step 1 would be to please don't fucking do this. Step 1 would be to I'm begging you. Well, if you're gonna do it, just do it for the lulz, but like don't actually steal the assets. Step 1 would be to hack into, like, they operate centralized fucking servers, right, on AWS somewhere. Like Optimism's a fucking company. Hack into this company, right? Maybe you fucking work there as the security person, right? Like obviously you probably get caught and go to jail, but like the fact that someone can do this, come on. Hack into the server, right? Step 2, change the ownership of the Optimism like bridge contract or whatever, such that Optimism's like private keys are now your private keys. Okay.
Okay. Don't you need to do that on chain? Like, don't you need to have the private key?
Yeah, well, you've hacked into their server, now you have the private keys, right?
Well, that's assuming that they keep their private keys on their servers.
I mean, they could. I've heard of crazier shit.
I mean, okay, sure. I mean,
dude, literally the first story today was people keeping private keys on their servers. I know, don't know, maybe you blackmail someone and you get a key, right? Like what, like, here's the, like, it's a doomsday scenario, right? But
okay. The thing is, okay, so wait, real quick. I will push back on that because most good security practices are like the private keys are sharded, right? Where it's like the key is like the seed phrase, right? Like the ownership of like the seed phrase is split up, right? So you don't just want to, like, if that was a real scenario, right, where they do just have unencrypted plain text private keys on their servers, like that's a real doomsday scenario. Like that would be abhorrent security practice. Like, yeah, the first thing we talked about, Slope Wallet, they did do that, but like the fact that it was such a big deal, it was such a big deal because that's so out there. Like nobody does that, right? But assuming that they do,
look,
and you get in there.
What I'm magnifying here, right, is what I'm trying to highlight is that like all it takes is having those private keys, right? And it's like one sharded private key can do this. There's no underlying. Well, we'll highlight why this is a problem. So.
So what's the next step here? So you change the ownership owner of the contract. And now you get to withdraw shit from Optimism, right? And you submit a transaction to say withdraw, I don't know, everything, right? There's now our listener base is going to dial in and they're going to light up the Twitter comments with stuff like, "Hey Matt, it's an optimistic roll up, Matt. There's a 7-day period where you can submit a fraud proof, but guess what? You fucking can't. The fraud proof system is not live. It's still under development. It's under development for every layer 2 other than Arbitrum, right? And like Arbitrum, so that means that nobody can actually dispute transactions right now, right?
Nope.
They're saying that at some point you will be able to dispute transactions, but right now you cannot.
Yeah, it's like whatever one step beyond optimistic is, right? It's real fucking trusted? Optimistic. Trusted, yeah. It's a trusted centralized database. Like Optimism is a trusted centralized database. The other thing is that like the users are going to be like, oh shit, like say Optimism gets compromised and like the hacker hasn't quite figured out how to like withdraw shit yet. There's no way for a user to submit a transaction to withdraw anything. Like Optimism themselves have to be the ones allowing you to do that. So if Optimism like doesn't like me because I'm like highlighting big security flaws in their model, like they can just hold my ETH there and like never let me withdraw it to mainnet. So it's trusted and permissioned and censorable. So here's the issue. That's like almost $1 billion in TVL right there, right? And there's a centralized point of failure And most people think that layer 2 bridges don't have that. It's just as bad as, as Nomad Bridge, right? Or Harmony Bridge or anything really, right? Like,
interesting.
I mean, literally, like
totally
this is what happened with Axie
now.
Infinity, right? They kept their private keys unencrypted on a machine that was connected to the internet, right? Like, or their key shards, right? Like, this is exactly the same scenario playing out. But it could happen on Optimism, and Optimism will, like the way that they've been marketing themselves will lead a lot of users to think that it's safer, but it's exactly as dangerous.
I see. Yeah, the fact that there is that company that acts as that central point of failure. I mean, if they do have that kind of plain text model, like that's horrible. But the point here being the point that you're making is that the fact that that central party does exist makes this not a decentralized like layer 2 solution, right? Like the hack here, if somebody wanted to get in there, it's like not as simple as this, but it's like a $5 wrench attack, right? Like you find the CEO of Optimism and it's like, yo, man, change the contract address to me, or change the owner of the contract to me. Like you've solved the issue there.
Look, the fact of the matter is that it's possible, right? Which is very different from it being impossible. So like there's no cryptographic primitive, there's no tech that makes this any safer than just trusting someone. It's a trusted bridge, right? And it's easy for people it's easy to get caught up in the terminology and not understand what's going on and think that like you're entitled to more security than you actually get with any protocol. Like on Bitcoin, people can't take your Bitcoin without your keys, right? In a bridge, it's like, oh man, there's one central party and they're effectively holding the keys for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, just a lot of
bridges, man.
A lot of bridges getting lit up. Yeah, I mean,
it's
tough.
Well, tough scene. All right, let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's hit some NFT stuff, and then we'll get out of here. So Tiffany, the Tiffany and Co., famous jewelry company, making their first entry into the NFT game. They announced a limited collection of 250 NFTiff. NFTiff is the name of the collection. It's a collection of Tiffany and CryptoPunk collab. It's like a CryptoPunk and Tiffany collab, basically. So this could only be minted if you already own a CryptoPunk. And basically what they did was they gave you this like cool like combination of a like Tiffany and like basically like a jewel of like your actual punk. And then it also came with like a physical diamond that was your punk.
It's like a pendant.
They actually look
right?
pretty dope. Yeah, it's like a pendant. Yeah.
I think they look super
looks pretty
cool.
sweet. Yeah, they look really awesome. They sold them for 30 ETH, sold out immediately. I think like I tweeted this out, but I was like, I think people are not making enough noise about this. Like, I think this is a massive deal. Like if they can sell 30 ETH pendants and 250 of them, and like they can sell them out immediately, they know they have a strong customer base. So I would assume that they're going to do a lot more of this, and I would assume that every fashion brand now gets in because they know they can. Like, this is like the beginning of what you call product market fit in, these companies, right? So I think this is going to be everywhere now. I would be shocked if there isn't like this kind of collection like happening every season, either collaborating with like crypto, like either like NFT brands or collaborating with their existing like collaborators and just using the NFTs as a way to monetize. I don't know. The one thing that I thought was notable was that if you read the actual licensing agreement, it's like Tiffany now owns all the IP rights to your punk if you do this.
What?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No, people like the CryptoPunks community is like livid about this. So it was super, super crazy to see that. I think that's all still unfolding, and I think it's yet to be seen what's going to happen.
I'm sure they'll
like,
walk
there
it
was
back, yeah.
Yeah, like there was like, with Larva Labs generally, like there was a lot of IP issues previously where you could only like monetize your CryptoPunk up to $100,000 and like a bunch of other stuff. And then like Yuga Labs purchased the IP, they purchased Larva Labs, and then they opened it up, let you do anything you want with it. And then now it looks like Tiffany wants to take those IP rights. So yeah, I think this is a really, really weird situation that, hasn't unfolded yet, but yeah, I was seeing like the screenshots of the actual, language. I was like, wait, what? Like that can't be real. But it is. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, let's see. More
Do you
NFT
think 250
stuff
was enough? Should they have done 500?
I think, this is like what I do for work, working with some of these brands. And I think there is a lot of hesitation or just a lot of concern around being able to sell out a full collection. I think some of these brands are not really sure where their incremental buyer is going to come from. But I think that if they do it right, like, because I think that what a lot of these people have seen is like the Pepsi or the Anheuser-Busch. It's just like a super low effort, like no thought put into some of this stuff. But you see some of the celebrities that are getting in now, and like launching, their own drops. Like a lot of it comes down to like they're attaching actual utility behind it, stuff like that. But if you put real thought into it around like what the value add is of the brand in general, like what the brand represents, like there is something that you can do with an NFT, right? Like it's just another way to grant access, or unique ownership. I think that if you really think through this and like really apply like a unique way of looking at the technology, I think there's like a lot of potential there. But I think what the concern from a lot of these brands' points of view is that they just don't know what that like value add is. Like what are they going to bring to the table? And so they're not sure if they can sell out these collections. With this, I think it was a great idea. Like they executed well too. So yeah, like they could have easily done 500. Also, targeting CryptoPunks is really smart because these people are all very wealthy. I actually think that targeting like apes, like this is why we don't see as many ape collections. It's like apes are a way more organic, like early NFT movement. That's why like when people lose their apes, it's like they lose their whole net worth in many cases. Like it's not like they have a lot of other money sitting on the side. With punks, like it's OG crypto people that are into that. So it's a much wealthier holder base, I would assume.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's my thesis here. Anyways, okay, yeah. One more thing here with the NFT stuff. Magic Eden, the biggest marketplace on Solana, announcing they're gonna integrate Ethereum-based NFTs. Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't
on
interesting
the
move,
Nothing
right?
Burger. Yeah, I would say on the Nothing Burger to extremely relevant scale, this is like, I don't know,
A bun?
4.4
Less than a bun?
4 out of 10. Yeah,
It's like it's a nothing veggie wrap.
Yeah, exactly.
These
It's
lettuce,
a breakfast taco. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. Like the market needs more competition.
Poor timing for these guys, right? Because they did it like the day of the Slope wallet hack, and initially a lot of people thought it was an issue with Magic Eden, but like for technical reasons, it was very clearly not. Yeah. Like it wasn't like these things were getting routed through Magic Eden, right? Like they were getting.
Hey, Magic Eden's a great platform. I love the product, so I think it'd be great if there's more competition.
It's a little laggy.
As somebody that works,
if that's because of Solana.
I was actually thinking that too when I was first using it. Yeah, but who knows?
Like sometimes you try to buy something and it's like already sniped. Like my Solamas.
Oh no. Well, the Solana market is very intense, so maybe that's just a Solana thing. Oh, hold on, we forgot one thing. ETHW, our favorite topic of all time, finally has its very first exchange listing confirmation. Poloniex, one of the mid-tier, low-tier exchanges, has confirmed that they will be listing it. The ticker is going to be ETHW.
Terrible ticker.
Yeah, horrible ticker. But I mean, what is it going to be? ETHPOW?
I thought ETH1 would have been good.
Yeah, ETH. Oh yeah, maybe you can't have numbers. No, you can. You can 1 inch, right? So.
Yeah. But 0x is always listed as ZRX.
Oh, true. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they've added number support. Anyway,
this is not a ticker podcast.
You know what's interesting? You can already trade derivatives of ETHW.
Oh, on what? On FTX?
On Poloniex.
Or on DYDX? Oh, on Poloniex. Interesting.
Yeah.
What are they trading at?
I checked this morning. It was anywhere from 0.07 ETH to 0.11 ETH.
Whoa. Super low.
Fucking crazy. Super high, right?
Dude, that's insane. Wait, really?
It's really high. Yeah.
Well, 0.11 is kind of high, but like we were saying that it might be like 5% market cap, right?
I think I was saying like 1 to 3.
Oh, really? Okay, I was saying 5.
I guess I was wrong.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a fair price for right now. I think as we get closer, it'll go down. I would assume so. Like, okay,
it's gotta be.
Like, dude, if there's futures already out here, that means that they have already talked to a lot of like market makers or big players who plan to dump or do whatever they're gonna do. Like, they're probably already talking. Like, I'm sure this guy Chandler Guo is the guy who set this exchange listing up. So I'm sure that the trade that's going to happen is gonna start getting priced in a little bit to the futures market as we get closer to the merge. And so I would expect the price to change quite dramatically.
And you think it dumps?
Can we buy? Yeah, I think it dumps eventually. Can we buy VIX on this
Someone
that's
who knows
the real
options,
Gigabrain
please.
move.
Yeah.
Yes. How can we buy volatility options on this specific ticker? That's what I want to know.
What I want to know is like, how does look, to a degree, like we're all just trading fucking like magical internet coins that don't really exist, right? But like this one actually doesn't exist yet. What? Like, this is just people putting like swapping numbers against one another for a thing that like there's no clear like what if there's two, right? Like.
Wait, are you describing Bitcoin right now?
ETHW.
No, I know. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it, Magic Internet Money. That's all it is. Thank you for tuning in to a Magic Internet Money podcast. This has been the Decent Crypto Recap for August 7th. We will be back in a few days with another deep dive, probably on Aptos. Till then, stay decent.
None of this was financial advice, legal advice, investment advice, or any other kind of advice. If you're looking for advice, you are definitely in the wrong place. Until next time, stay decent.